Hello, you're welcome to Gist Arena. All we do is gist, and gist. We discuss topical, trending, and exciting topics, and we have fun while at it. We invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy each thrilling moment of gist, and gist. Hello and welcome to another episode of Gist Arena, where all we do is gist, and gist. Have you been? How's your day gone so far? How's the week gone so far as well? Have you accomplished, all that you set to do, at least up until now? Not to worry if you have not. You still got time to, double up. For now, relax and listen to us. Just sit down, be taken care of. Let's speak into your ears. Thank you so much for joining us again today. I am Cynthia. Adenike is here with me. Ayotune is sitting out today, and we're joined here with a guest. Let me clap. Yes, we're joined here today by a guest, an HR professional actually. Her name is Gloria. Hi Gloria, how are you doing? It's so lovely to have you here with us. So we have Gloria here today because we'll be discussing something that has to do with the workplace, and we wanted that point of view from an HR professional, which she brings, because the rest of world like this now cruise with them, man. So without further ado, this particular scenario made the rounds of social media. So just a brief background. So there's a guy called John, and there's a guy called Brandon. John happens to, from all indications, be either the supervisor or manager to Brandon, and so there was a screenshot of their text conversation that was shared online, and got a lot of reactions from people. So I'll be reading it. So this message comes in from John to Brandon. You remember I said John is Brandon's supervisor or manager. And so it goes first. Hey Brandon, we are short-staffed for the rest of this year because Sarah just quit without any warning. We are really backed up, so I am going to need you to come in during Thanksgiving this year. Don't be shocked if you have to come in during Christmas Eve and day 2. Brandon replies, I already told you 3 weeks ago I need that week off and you agreed. Now you're changing your mind? I will not be working Thanksgiving. And if you ask again, I will not be working for you at all anymore. Wow. So Brandon replies the next morning. So the previous 2 text messages I just read were sent in the evening, started at 7:02 in the evening. So I guess that followed up closely. So John, who is the manager, responds the next morning at 9:32, and he goes first. We have had to set expectations with you multiple times this year. Coming in is the least you can do. Your PTO request has been denied. I am not asking you to come in. I am telling you that you have to. And Brandon replies, and I'm telling you that you have no worker at all now. I quit. And he puts the thumbs up emoji there. So that's the conversation that's basically happened between John and Brandon. So this has stirred a lot of conversations, different conversations. Let me start with this. Adenike, what do you think? So typically when people sign employment letters, most often than not, I'm not saying this is the number, most times, we especially in this part of the world, we sign 8 to 5 or 9 to 6, so structured time. However, along the line when you resume work and you realize that you have to stay beyond the terms of employment, or you have requests and all of that, you just have to stay beyond the time that you're allocated in the office. If you had your boss send a message to you sort of out of work hours, would you respond? Do you think it is out of place for such requests to be made? And if you get such requests after work hours, would you even respond to them? And if you do, would you like action immediately, or will you say something like, maybe I would action tomorrow or something like that? What do you think? And Chef, sorry, we usually call Gloria sometimes Chef Glow. What do you think? No, not what do you think now, more from the professional view. What do you think about employers reaching out to employee after work hours, or during a time when they're not supposed to come in? What do you think about that scenario? Is it not? I mean, if to myself now being an employee, it pretty much looks like all employers do that, and it's cool. What do you think about it? Is it like a non-written rule now, like when it's in fact, like when it's not contained in your employment letter, should you just expect that your employer is going to reach out to you during your not working hours? And if they do, are you obligated to actually respond to such requests? What should you do? What should your line of action be? So over to you, ladies.
Hello, Cynthia. How are you doing today? Such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful introduction. It's so exciting to be on this platform. And well done to you, my darling Adenike and Jockey. Well done, guys. This is such a beautiful platform, and I'm so excited to be here. So yes, we're talking a very sensitive topic today, or we are touching a very sensitive topic today, which is really around employee-employer relationship, and where we should set the boundaries and where people should be respected in terms of their time and their ability to work in an organization. First things first, one of the key things that employers need to know is that as an employer, you have something called the employee value proposition. In other words, even though you're offering your staff or your employee a service, right, there's also a value proposition. In other words, what makes you a unique employer. But most employers don't see this, or don't necessarily think about this factor, because they possibly see that they're probably doing people a favor by hiring them and paying them a salary. But it goes beyond that. An employment environment needs to be fulfilling both for the employer and the employee. And it's important that we pay attention to these things, particularly when it comes to hiring and retaining and engaging staff as well. Now, with the situation at hand, before I go to your question, right, the employee was well on his right, and the manager was also well on his right. But I will explain to you what I mean by both. Now, the employer should have been able to seek the human aspect of this staff to help them understand why they require their services at that particular point in time. Now, regardless of whether you're selling or you're in human resources or whatever the trade you're in, when you need to convince people or speak to people from a depth, it has to do with emotional transfer. And for an employer, you must learn that emotional intelligence to know how to transfer it in a way that your employee is willing to go above and beyond for you. If she had simply approached it a different way versus sending a text calling to explain the business exigencies, it might have made a difference versus ordering the person. Now, don't forget that beyond the 8 or 9 hours we spend at work, we also have other areas of our lives we need to balance. I'm sure many of us have heard about the Wheel of Life circle, and know that there are different areas we need to balance to have a full and fulfilling life. But if those areas are suffering, the truth of the matter is that you cannot give 100% at a job. So if that guy had even come into the office, let's assume he had been bullied to come into the office, guess what? He won't be operating at 100%. And would you rather somebody who is operating at 10% versus somebody who is operating at 100%, who is fully vested into the interest and the obligations of the organization? So those are the trade-offs that we need to make as CEOs, as employers, and as bosses, to ensure that we are emotionally vested in our employees in such a way that they can go above and beyond to fulfill our needs, or to fulfill the needs of the organization, because it's beyond you as a manager. You don't go around ordering people, because you wouldn't want to be treated that way. And at the same time, the staff also needs to, tone down the way that they respond to things. You don't respond to things in an emotional way as well and lose altogether. You have to strike that balance to help the person see why you need the break. Every single one of us, we need to take some time to rest. Like we always say, rest is not a gift. How do I put it? Rest is not a reward. Rest is a necessity to be able to recalibrate. That's why we have times and seasons. A woman will be pregnant for 9 months, but there are 3 seasons of change. A school will have 9 months sessions, but there's 3 months of, breaks in between to recalibrate and come back to your 100% self, or gain new strength for your new season. And so employers need to understand that. So back to your question, I'd like to also hear other people's perspectives. All employers need to understand that there's something called boundaries. there is something called boundaries. Even employees need to understand that. As a rule of thumb, if it is 10 p.m., I do not personally respond to anything that has to do with the office. Not because I cannot or I don't want to, but I need to not build that repertoire that you can reach out to me at 1 a.m. I've had scenarios where my bosses reached out to me at 1 a.m., 12 midnight, and we're doing the work, and guess what? We did the work well into the morning, and that work could have waited. You understand? We could have given our best, if we had focused on it, come to work very early in the morning and focus on it. The truth of the matter is that the world is not going to stand still. And truly, planning really makes us be able to achieve our tasks most times. But yeah, I agree that there can be exigencies here and there that would require people to come into the office and really put in 100%. At those times, you need to be human about it, because you're taking me out of the commitment we both had when we were signing the employment letter. So you need to be human about it. The concept of human resources is not about giving rules and regulations. It's about being human first. And being human means that we have different aspects that make us. We have spirit, soul, and body, like many of us know. But at the same time, we have so many social areas that make us. We have family, we have fun, we have our finances, we have recreation. We have so many areas that make us up. And employers need to understand it. So first things first, understand that there are boundaries. And no, I don't expect that you send me a message by 12 midnight. I wouldn't respond, except I know that we are working on a critical, project that is very time bound. Then I would give my entire time. But I still expect that you don't bully me into doing it. I don't want to use the word lure, but you TLC me into it. Give me a reason to know that this is bigger than me, and let me commit to doing it. So that's the way I feel that we can engage our employees, and at the same time retain them for good success.
Hi, Cynthia. Hi, Chef Flo. Great to chat with you all again. Thank you very much. Nice to gist with Chef Flo again, at least on Gist Arena. Welcome, Chef Flo. Great question, Cynthia. Great topic, interesting topic. So question for me is, would I pick a call from my manager outside of work hours? Number one, it depends on if I even saw the call to start with. I once had a call from a manager. He called me on Friday and after work hours, and I didn't even see the missed call until Monday. Don't judge me. He called a number that I did not typically monitor back then, because I have quite a number of numbers. I have quite some numbers. My sister claimed that it's people that are doing Yahoo that have so many numbers. For me, I have a good reason. I'm not doing Yahoo. I use them for different purposes, and I'm a risk engineer, and part of my risk management training tells me that I should always have backups and all. So that's why I have quite a number of numbers. So I didn't even see his call. So there was no case of whether I would. But even if I'd seen that call, I don't know if I would have called back until Monday anyway. But we'll never know. So now let's assume I saw the call at the time it came or not long after. Would I call back? Would I try to reach out? I would say at that point that it depends on the relationship I have with the manager. I may not know all the HR jargon or HR words that Chef Glow put in. Oh, and by the way, the reason why we call her Chef Glow is that apart from being a fantastic HR personnel, she also is an amazing chef. I hope she will tell us a bit more about her chefing sometime as she's talking, as we're gisting. Okay, so back to the topic. So I may not know all of the right HR words as she does, but one thing I know is that as a manager, as someone that has people reporting to you, you want to be careful that you are not just a positional leader. And by saying what positional leadership means is that you are a leader because that's your title. They'll say that's level 1 leadership in quotes, because yes, you have the title, but you're not influential. You haven't invested enough in your people to be able to influence them to do things that they probably are not even being paid to do. There are things you do as a leader that moves you from level 1, which is positional leadership. I think that's from a John Maxwell book that I reviewed with some of my some people in a program I was on a few years back. That's when I learned about that. As a level 1 leader, you are you are insisting because your position says you are the leader, but by the time you're moving to level 2, it means that people are following you, not just because of your position. And sometimes level 2 leaders may not even have the position, but they have influenced people enough that they can tell people, let's go and do this thing. And even though you are not the one that is the positional leader, the level 2 leader is the one people want to follow, even when there are no imminent benefits. So you want to invest as a leader in your capacity so that you can influence people. I remember that one of the best books I ever read was one I read in my 100 level, I believe, by Dale Carnegie. I think that's him. The title was How to Win Friends and Influence People. So while my classmates and all were learning Math 101 and Physics 101 and Chemistry 101, I spent a good part of my 100 level reading that book, and I'm glad I did because I learned a lot about that. So I think one issue that Brandon's manager has is that he has not invested in the relationship he has with Brandon to be able to ask Brandon to do things that are not in his job description and get Brandon to say, oh, I'll be glad to. I have some leaders that when they tell me to do things extra, I don't even grumble, I do them. There was someone that had taken his time when I was an intern to train me on things that he didn't necessarily have to do. And so there was a time when he needed me to help him out over the weekend. I wasn't going to be paid for the job because it was something I was doing to help him. And so I couldn't make it on Saturday, which was the day he wanted me to come. So I told him, oh, you know what, send me the stuff. I'm going to do it on Sunday because Sunday is the day I can work on it. And I went physically to work on Sunday to do it. And I spent quite some time doing free work for someone because he had invested earlier, not because he was expecting this to happen, but because he had invested, and I felt comfortable to pay him back in quotes, and I didn't feel like I was being forced to do anything. So I think one issue is it depends. My answer is that it depends on how much this person that is asking me to come out of my during the, even if I'm going to be paid, I think that's secondary. People really, as in pay is not enough justification to make people to take on overtime. That which is essentially what Brandon's manager wanted him to do. It depends for me on what the relationship is between myself and the manager to start with.
Or more or more. It always makes sense to bring an authority on a subject matter, into discussions, and this is clearly one of them. When Gloria was speaking, I kept saying way. This is literally why you need to always speak to a subject matter authority when you're literally speaking about some specific things. And I mean, I definitely resonate with what you both said when it comes to investing in your colleagues or co-workers or your subordinates, quote unquote here. I mean, it's only when you invest then you can reap. I remember on a previous job, I mean, my boss then could literally, get to my house and tell me, Cynthia, we need to be at this particular place. And I'll be like, I'm not even at my bath. And he'll tell me, please, can you, be ready in like 20, 15 minutes? And I'll be like, yes, I can. And that's because this person has definitely invested in me to the extent that I can go and above and beyond for this person. Like, I literally would work into the night because this person requested it or this person needs it and things like that. And I also remember I remember on another job as well where, look, once that 5 o'clock is 5 o'clock, I'm not reachable anymore. I remember on the, the job I'm referring to, if my boss wanted to reach me, like they did not even have my, what's it called, my personal line. And when there were emergencies, they would have to call my colleague, and I had instructed my colleague to never give up my personal number. So my colleague would do a conference call, and then they would just ask me whatever they wanted to ask me. It was funny, but I just decided I didn't want to do it. And I always wonder how we can strike that work-life balance. How do we strike that work-life balance? How do we do it? And just while we were discussing this, I came across or someone shared another scenario with me, and I just want to share it with the house so we can also discuss this. It's also, it will definitely play to what Gloria was talking about, not being emotional, as well as what Adenike was saying, in like as a boss, if you've not invested, or you've not just done the work, you cannot just request your subordinate or some things. And I'm just going to read this email that I came across, or that was sent to me rather. So it goes to us: dear Nee, trust this email finds you well. Let me just post. It's very funny when even I type, I trust this email finds you well, because I'm like, if I don't put that, how am I supposed to open, how am I supposed to introduce, or what's supposed to be in the introduction of my mail? I use it a lot. Dear X, I trust this mail finds you well. Remember, I'm wondering, and if it doesn't find you well, anyways, I digress. Okay, so I'm just gonna continue. I sent in feedback since Friday, and I'm yet to hear back from you, and you have not even acknowledged the email. Kindly see to it that this is not a regular occurrence, and please add your input as soon as possible, because I have a briefing by midday tomorrow. Regards. So first, my question would be, what do you think about this particular email? How was the tone? Was it okay, or was it was it calling for some sort of negative feedback? Now I'm going to read the reply. Dear, the name has been redacted. Trust you had a well. So this is actually a reply to that mail I just finished reading. Trust you had a restful weekend. I will not act as though your mail met me well as you suggested. That's what I just said now. For whatever reason, you sent your feedback around 8 p.m. on Friday. As someone that has been working here longer than I have, you don't need me to tell you that office hours are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Fridays. I am within my purview of rights if I decide not to reply over the weekend. If your social calendar is very open and you decide to work over the weekend, I commend your commitment to the course. However, this should not be a yardstick to measure my competency. I have made the edict, and you can find it attached to this mail. Enjoy the rest of your day, forever in your service. The signing out is also redacted. So I'm just wondering, Gloria, from an HR point of view, if this matter was brought to you, how would you handle this? And I didn't care. I mean, how do you think? What do you think? What do you think about the tone of the email? Obviously, from this tone, or already we can infer that this person does not have that rapport or that relationship with the recipient of the mail. If you got this kind of mail and you don't have an exactly good rapport with the person that sent it, what would be your reply? Do you think this person's reply was a little over the top, or do you think it was just fine? What do you? Well, I would say that I do find a bit of sass in the reply. I definitely would not reply this way. In fact, let me just say, if I wasn't, I mean, I've had situations where I got emails on Friday or on days when I was off, and I'll be very honest with you to tell you that it depends on my mood, and it depends on the urgency of the message. I'll give an example. So I work in higher education recruitment, and sometimes I get mails that are time sensitive. I'll give an example, loose example. I could have a mail for someone that wants to apply for a visa. They need to resume at a certain time, and they've sent me an email requesting for an information or something, for maybe just to say, maybe to put in their visas, and they need that thing. It's time sensitive, and they change it to only myself. They haven't copied anyone else in it. To be honest, irrespective of how I feel, even if I'm on break or I'm on holidays over the weekend, I would actually respond to that email and help the person out. And I've also gotten mails from my bosses where, to be honest with you, I just was not in that zone of frame of mind to do anything. And very honestly, even sometimes, even when it was time sensitive, I just know that bodily I cannot do anything, and I didn't do anything, and I waited till Monday. No, nothing fell. But I personally don't think I would send this kind of reply. So I'm just curious, what do you ladies think? Gloria, from an HR point of view, what do you think about this reply? Well, no, what do you think about what was sent? What do you think about the person's reply? I didn't care. Would you ever, reply the way this person has replied? And what do you think about the mail in the first instance?
Since I read Danny's response to the email, I've not been able to read an email that says, "Hope this email meets you well," with a straight face. It's always been funny. As in, I'm sure people are like, "Why is this one laughing?" But I just remember Nii every time. So speaking personally, I would not reply the way Nii did. I would not, honestly. But it is funny. It was a funny response from Nii. But if I was a co-worker and both of them brought their matter to me, for example, if depending on which one of them brings the matter, I would give them counsel separately. So let's assume that it was Nee's boss that, or where the other person that sent the mail, the first mail, that came to me. What I would tell him or her is, first of all, your tone was just off. You don't send people emails after work and just assume that they are going to do it. So if it was something urgent and I'd sent an email, I'll probably follow up with a phone call, and go like, me, my guy, how far? I know you're busy. Oga, beg, please help. Just go without that quote and tie approach, because again, even if it's during work hours and the person, I really need the information and I need you to get on it as quickly as possible. That's one of the things that I would say that majority of my managers say they like about me, which is that I follow up. I would follow up on the email that I've sent, no matter how official, and I try to make sure that my email is not coming across as me being official, wearing coat and tie. It's probably usually, "Oh, please, this thing is overdue. Can you please expedite?" There'll be all of those words that communicate urgency, and I'm not going to wait until I have a meeting to write an email. So I probably would send the mail in the most friendly way possible, and then follow up with a phone call and still go like, "My guy, how far? I know it's Friday. I know you're busy. Organo vex, I beg, help me." That kind of thing, so that when he does, he will not go like, "It's because now that kind of thing." And most times when my managers need me to do something urgently, they probably will do that. So I probably learned from best managers, I would say. So first of all, make sure you don't wait until something is super urgent. Didn't you know you had a meeting by whatever time it is the meeting was supposed to start? And then you waited all through Friday, waited through Saturday, Sunday, then you're waiting till Monday morning to send that email. The tone was not good. That's my verdict. So if Nee had come to me and had said, "See, waiting this one they do now, wow," I probably would have gone like, "Oh yeah, your boss was out of line, but Nee, your response was sassy." You're probably right. I remember there was a presentation I'd seen, I think it was during my internship anyway, and the title was, "You could be right and you could be dead right," in the sense that yes, you're right, but you died because you were trying to prove you're right. It was a safety moment, and the point of it was that someone walking on their, or insisting on their lane on the road and refusing to give way to traffic of mad people that obviously don't have the right of way but are just not normal enough to calm down and wait for others. And then so you're right, you're on your right, but then you end up being hurt or even killed because you're insisting on your right. And that's perhaps what I would tell Nia at this point. Nia, yes, the email shouldn't have come when it did, but if there was something really urgent that needed to be attended to, for me, if I was in these shoes, no matter how I feel about the manager, so if I saw the email, again, I'll go back to it being to the fact that I saw or did not see it. So if I saw the email, I would respond with a tone that tells you that, please, this is not acceptable. don't do it consistently. And if it's like the manager's 57th time of waiting till things are urgent before he or she now involves me, I probably would also copy someone senior, more senior than the manager, to respond to whatever was asked, but also indicate that I prefer to be involved earlier so that I can deal with issues before they get too late or get to the point where I have to be working overtime if it's something that I could have done maybe during work hours. So for me, that's perhaps how I would respond. So of course, there's still some passive aggressiveness in copying the person's manager, but I would rather be passive aggressive in a way that if we decide that we are going to HR to go like, you try, well done. But I don't know, I don't really like to get into that mode. So please, Oga, please don't put me in the position where you are already behind and then you're expecting me to treat your tardiness as an emergency. I don't like that personally, and I would assume that Niyitu does not. However, if I do have to manage such a boss that waits for things to be late, one thing I probably waits until things are late before he or she starts asking for input. Perhaps what I would advise a Niyi to do in such a case is to anticipate and ask the Oga, how far? What are we working on this week? What's due? When is it due? Begin to work like a project engineer on your Oga. I had a boss like that always had challenges with keeping up with schedule. So what did I do? I would always look through the schedule, look at things that maybe are due in 2 weeks, begin to work on them before they are due, so that by the time he's asking me those late night questions, in fact, I'm the one that's telling him that maybe like a week before the things are due, that I've worked on ABC. This is the response and all, and make sure that I send the mail to just him. And my managers, like I said, have been great people, so they have appreciated that. So I think there are a lot of things Nii could have done better, but I'll put 70% of the issues of the blame in quotes in this instance on Nii's boss. Thank you.
Now, wah. Now, real wah. Anyway, so I pretty much went back to that message almost 3 to 4 times to read different meanings to it and to kind of put the right emotion or the right perspective. And the first thing that actually strikes me is that they have a culture of Glasgows in that environment, if this means anything to anyone. Because from maybe I'm old school when it comes to work environment and relationships, or maybe old school or very traditional in the way that I behave. So that might also interfere or put some basis to my response. But the truth of the matter is that regardless of whether you're in the work environment or not, the concept of respect, ties deep. First of all, talk about the job, no problem, but don't start referring people's social calendar or people's social life. That's you attacking the person's person, if you get what I'm trying to say. So there's a difference between focusing on the matters at hand, which was the fact that you do not appreciate being given work, but then starting to say things around the person's social life. That just means to me that you're now being personal about your attack. For the line manager, it reminds me so much of somewhere that I know. I'm not going to say anything, but it reminds me so much. I feel that this person has a lot of things to prove to their own superior. So hear me when I say this. They have a lot of things to prove to their own superior, but they generally don't know why, or how rather. And so they require the support or the help of their team members to help them achieve. But also pride. Pride won't sort of allow them to, cajole their team members so not cajole, but galvanize their team members to do anything for them. And you mentioned it earlier. If you haven't poured into someone, even the Holy Book says that out of the fullness of the mouth, out of the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. So if you haven't poured enough into someone, if you haven't deposited into their emotional banks, there's really no way, the person will decide to do anything for you without thinking twice about it. And like I said, they have a gbas culture. So it's very easy for the person to give that person back and not cower under authority or cower under leadership. Okay? So first things first, that manager or that line manager, whatever that person is, has something to prove to the bigger boss, but doesn't really know how to do it and needs the input from our team members or his team members, to be able to create their own perspective and their own thoughts. But that being said, if you do have a briefing over the weekend, I'm sure you knew about it Friday during the day. You could have just simply said, you know what, I'll probably need your service maybe for an hour tomorrow. Would it be possible for you to help me? Don't go saying it's a social, don't make it a norm. That also tells me that you don't have a healthy balance between the different areas of your life. And you're trying to impose that or reflect that on other people. The fact that, and managers need to understand this, the fact that somebody else does not share your social sentiments or does not share what you consider hard work or fun doesn't mean the person is not competent enough. Okay? It doesn't mean the person is not competent enough. What needs to happen in that environment is that they need to describe the fundamentals of their business culture and ensure that everybody understands how that translates into behavior. Okay? And everybody can deliver. If it's an environment that is focused on delivering work 7 days a week, 24 hours, I'm sure everybody who is collecting an offer letter already knows that, and that's the expectation. But from this person's response, it means that HR didn't do anything to say, oh, we work extra hours even over the weekend, whether it is required or not. HR will most times always say, okay, when is business exigency? This did not sound to me like a business exigency, unless it could have been a bit more urgent. Okay? Now, back to the responder. Again, like I said, it's okay to set boundaries. And it's okay to express what is acceptable and what is not acceptable by you. But there's also something called emotional intelligence or emotional mastery. There's something else called self-governance. Okay? Self-leadership and self-governance. And there's something else that is called, that just skipped my head and I don't remember what I wanted to say. But emotional intelligence or emotional mastery just basically means your ability to know when to speak, what to say, how to say it, in a way that the other party doesn't see it. The other party sees the depth of your conversation and can understand it. And that's me giving a pedestrian definition to this, but I hope everybody can understand what I'm saying. And self-governance is your ability not to also project yourself in your response. So the email reeks of emotional banter. Oh, I have something to squash with this person and I'm just going to put it in this email and score cheap points of being able to talk. Guess what? When it comes to performance appraisal, I'm not just appraising you based on your technical competence. I'm also appraising you based on your ability to blend in this environment, which is where the cultural and behavioral aspects comes into book. And with that behavior, I'm sorry, you can't sit in a board meeting. You can't. Because you won't know when to, cover up the stakeholders' issues. You won't know when to act. So I can't trust you with a huge portfolio because you just pour out your emotions everywhere, all in the bid to score cheap points. So just like you have strategy and you have short-term, mid-term, and long-term plans, employees should also have the same short-term, mid-term, long-term plans and identify what behavior will help me achieve this short, long, and mid-term plan. You don't just want to score cheap points so they can say, oh, you have the sharpest mouth. Guess what? Opportunities will just be passing you by and you will not know why. You will think it's your boss who is being, upset at you, or it's your boss who is being, mean at you or something like that. But that's not the case. The case is you need to learn self-governance and emotional mastery. That response was totally uncalled for. If you say, oh, you know what? Unfortunately, I had a few things to do over the weekend and I couldn't get back to your email. Please find attached. I don't know. It's a very deep topic. And I know that, it's easy to just say, oh, it's wrong and it's right. But it's a very deep topic. It goes further to show the fabric of the way we reason as a people. Because, for instance, somebody drives by you and I hope I've not gone off tangents because I'm really emotional about this particular topic. Somebody drives by you on the roadside. Everything you want to do within your power is to get into that person's space and show them with your hand, or show them with your hand how upset you are, or show them how stupid, or just make noise in your car, showing how mental we all are. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Just to score cheap points. Now, what did that show of anger do for you? Nothing, except cause you extra headache and maybe probably lose your voice in the process. And that's what is playing out in this email. Yes, good and fine. The person who sent the email possibly was wrong in her position or in the way that she delivered that message. But what about you, the responder? What was your reaction to that? Did you have to also stoop down to that person's level? Did you have to also stoop down to that person's level and, brandish everything you wanted to? If I'm that manager, all I would do is to take it to a board meeting and say, look at what's going on. We need to have a cultural intervention in this company. And that person will be blacklisted forever. I can give you a story about I hope I'm not taking too much time. I can give you a story of one of my past experiences. I was always, when I just returned into Nigeria at the time and I was working, my boss was so in love with me because he felt like I could do anything for him. He gave me the nickname 007. Any document, any name, I would dig that person from under. I was so proactive, But I did that to the detriment of my team members down below. I had a line manager. I always ignored her and went directly to my MD, I went directly. I had about 7 programs I was managing at that particular time, 7 projects I was managing at that particular time. I was balling now. What do you mean? I was a big girl, and of course I had a tiny, small accent. So yeah, I was a baller, shakola, And all of a sudden, my boss traveled for a meeting outside the country where he was going to spend half a year, 6 months. And I was left all by myself. By then, I unconsciously didn't know that for every time they're telling me, oh, train this intern, oh, train this copper, oh, show them what you're doing, they were taking away my job one after the other. By the end of that year, from 7 projects worth billions, millions of naira, I went down to 1.5. 1.5 because the other program was closing out. So I had 1.5 projects to work on. So I met my manager and I said, what's going on? And the first thing she told me was that, have you come down from your high horse? It took me losing my projects to learn that you don't always have to have the last say. Just tell her, I'm sorry I couldn't work. Why are you talking about somebody's social life? I have a lot to say, but let me stop here so that I can get other opinions as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adenike and Gloria. It's been such an interesting conversation. I mean, I've had to take a lot of mental notes, and this is one that I will definitely go back to listen again because quite a lot of gems were dropped here. And I know that in the course of the discussion, we have touched on, line manager supervisor relationship. That's from the point of view of quote unquote a subordinate, as well as if you are the line manager or the supervisor, or how to relate with your subordinates. But I wanted us to focus a bit more on it. So how can we cultivate a very good line manager supervisor relationship? How can we deposit, like we've been saying? How can you fill up that emotional part of your subordinate that will allow them want to go above and beyond for you in exigencies? And as a subordinate, how can you create or cultivate such relationship with your line manager or supervisor that they will understand the kind of your working ethics, that they would know that, just so that they would just know how to better communicate with you, how to not request such ridiculous things from you, how to know that you have a work-life balance, even if they want to go above and beyond, how to sort of ensure that you are better placed and positioned. Even when they want to request, they know that you're not one to be tossed around or to be asked ridiculous things from. So I want us to dwell on that now. I want us to try and do that within the confines of time, as well as just expatiate on it as much as we can.
Hi, Cynthia. This was a very good perspective, or this is a very good perspective. So thank you very much again for the brilliant question. I'd like to approach this from a more holistic point of view, or as my daughter would say, POV, So why am I taking it from a different perspective? I'd like us to look at this more or less as an organizational wide thing versus it being a line manager employee situation. What you find in most organizations is that once the relationship or the employer's journey goes from HR onboarding to departmental, to departmental deployment, you find that the line manager tends to want to run the company or run the department as their own company, as the CEO of their own company. And this might be very prevalent in African communities where the need to exert authority is very big or is very huge. And this, again, if you think about it deeply, stems from sometimes our own relationship with our parents, the kind of strict upbringing that we're brought under, and the need for us to also exert authority. So when somebody has flogged you all your life, all you're thinking of to do is to become a senior so you can do the same thing to your students. You find that happening in boarding school. You find that happening in the work environment. This is just a cry for help, and it's a deeper societal issue, and that's why the concept of business culture is still very new in Africa and needs to be embedded. I'm very thankful that with the work that we do, or the work that I do where I am, these are things that we are focusing on to ensure that we help employers be able to create in-depth culture, or to create a high-performing culture. An employer shouldn't have a different experience in one department and another person will have a different experience in another department, even though we are individuals. The thing that should hold us bound, or the thing that should hold us together, is the core of our organization. The core, which means the values, our core focus, and every other thing that leads to the behavior, which is actually the business culture. Okay, so this should not necessarily stem from line manager to employee. It should be a company-wide thing. And how can we then transcend that relationship to the line managers, and ensure that this now becomes a behavior that is permitted company-wide? The first thing is instituting a culture of or being intentional and flexible about your culture. Intentional means that there needs to be some fundamentals that have to be described within the organization. So who are we? Are we a family? Do we act as a family? Are we a customer-oriented or customer-focused environment? Are we an environment that respects people's time? Are we an environment that is reliable, that is full of integrity, that focuses on speed and whatnot? Now, what this does is that when you have identified these fundamentals, it helps you to be able to assert or to align the behaviors that are required for this, so that if there's an anomaly, somebody can easily flag it up to say, come, this is not what we have known as our norm, but this person has made it their norm. And that's something that needs to be corrected immediately. Okay? So, and then once we are able to establish that, both line managers and employees understand their rights and understand the extent to which their rights work in that environment. When we do that, people are no longer work on eggshells, and we reduce subjectivity and the reliance on personal interpretation of the law, because the organization solves for that. Now, within teams as well, you need to ensure that you're intentional about building relationships within your team based on people's strengths. Okay, there are people who are result-oriented, the other ones are maybe visual-oriented, whatever the case may be. Build relationship based on strengths. And more importantly, try to develop relationships outside the work environment. I know that this is counterproductive to what we are talking about, but having relationships outside the organization also helps to foster that culture of knowing that person beyond themselves. So beyond just having TGIFs, you can decide to say, you know what, want to come and visit you in your home, or want to have TGIF in your home, just to see what your community looks like, to see also if it is constraints of location or environment that is even preventing your staff member from being available over the weekend. If it is the fact that, they have commitments with their family or commitments with other areas of their life that is preventing them from being active over the weekend. So that puts a human face to it. If at all you want to take the relationship to that extent. But as far as I'm concerned, people should know each other on a personal level. Have a discussion with your team members to understand what goes on in their family life. Are they the firstborn, the lastborn, the middleborn? How many children do they have? What are things that are going on with them? So that you can put some human face to it. I said it earlier before that at the basis of human interaction is the need to be heard. Is the need to be heard. And the only way you can be heard is if you actually have some, if you're invested emotionally in me. If you're not invested emotionally in me, it's not possible. And also give frequent feedback. oh, I've noticed so and so is happening. Could there be any other reason why? So instead of jumping into conclusion, you're actually leading by feedback. You're giving the person feedback and giving the person the opportunity to explain themselves and let you know if there's another thing there that we need to pay attention to. Okay? Giving constant feedback and creative ones at that. When you also see training opportunities that are available, share with your team member and say, okay, you know what, I find that you're a bit, lapsed in this area. I think this training will help. So go ahead and do this training and see how much, we can create success in your portfolio. So I feel that these things will help. We need to be a bit intentional. We need to be flexible. Culture needs to flow organizational wide, and we need to define what is fundamental to our behavior, to our organization, and turn that into behaviors that are relevant. And most importantly, leaders, team leaders, you're the CEO of your role, no doubt, but you're not the CEO of your own company inside the company. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. So that way, you don't see it as your own opportunity to be the wicked boss or to be the bad senior, that was mean to you in boarding school or stuff like that. Treat everybody as a human being. At the basis of every human interaction is a need to be heard. And you see, transfer of emotions. If you're vested in my personal life, which again, we have to draw the lines there. You don't have to be so invested in my life so much that you start gossiping about me. I need to trust you. I need to trust that you keep your word. You need to also walk the talk. If my leader is not walking the talk, why are they forcing me to walk the talk? I feel like they are bullying me. So you also need to walk the talk. You need to do what you say. You need to do what you want me to do as well. Let me also learn from you. Let it not be that you're only always draining me, and there's nothing coming back. Yeah? So I hope this helps.
Okay. Hi, thank you so much, Chef Glow, for that fantastic. I always say fantastic, but I can't think of another word. That's your analysis. They were just hitting it. I was like, yes, this chef went to school. I'm happy she went to school and the school showed in her body. I liked what you said about the culture of basketballs and that they need to work on that. So I'll try to answer Cynthia's question about what I believe a supervisor or manager should do to build a relationship that makes it easy for them to ask for. Would I say the word is favors when required, as well as how the person reporting to the manager, I don't know the best word for that, because the word that keeps coming to me is subordinate. And the work people will probably come and drag me for calling someone a subordinate. But you know that thing that in your mind you're thinking of as a subordinate, that word. I'll just say the S word from now on. And so the person in that position, the junior person, what do I think he or she can do to communicate to the supervisor or manager that they would rather not be disturbed when they're off work? Because I think that's what he was trying to do in his email. Remember, we haven't quite gone back to unpack Brandon and his manager's point, but I think that was what Brandon was also trying to pass across, that please, I'm not interested in all of those you people's after work lack of work-life balance. So for me, I do work for an organization where work-life balance is an important value. It's a value for us. We consider it a value. So if my manager did come to me, and I've had cases where my manager, in whom I was very well pleased anyway, came to me and asked me to come and work over the weekend. And consistently, I let them know in my organization that I don't want to work weekends. Even if I'm going to be paid overtime, it's just not what I want to do. Because, most times for people in my organization, if you're asked to work after hours, it's more or less like your manager doing you a favor. It took me a while to figure that out, because when I got to the role when I got promoted to the point where I could be asking people to come for overtime, it took me a while to recommend people. And it came across as though she doesn't want to eat, she also doesn't want us to eat, kind of thing. And I finally figured out that, okay, I'm going to have to find a way to manage that. And I'll just digress a bit and talk about that, in the sense that because I had to recommend people working for me to come for overtime and I didn't want to come, so the people that would have to approve above me would now go like, oh, who is going to monitor the work he or she is doing? But thankfully, I didn't have to argue too much, because most times we have this templates that before you get your overtime approval, you have to say what the person is coming to do overtime, and because it's part of the what you need to show to get the person paid. So that was easy for me, because it's easy for, I don't have to be there physically. I can, once we filled the form and said this is what Cynthia is coming to do when she comes overtime for overtime, Cynthia, it just falls on Cynthia to ensure that she can defend it. So the reason why I went into all of that was to go back to the point of what can the S word, the junior person, do. So one of the things the junior person can do is that if you have that kind of system in where your manager has to ask you if he or she should put in a request for overtime for you, you can politely say, oh no, Oga, I'm sorry, I can't come this weekend. I have a wedding. Or I'm sorry, this weekend I'm going to be, I have already made plans with my friends. We're traveling out of the country. Just let the Oga know that, oh, you've made plans. And that, oh, next time, please, if you're checking with me, please just let me check with me earlier, maybe on Monday or Tuesday, so that I will be able to adjust my plans accordingly. So I think that comes across as being that, oh, you're willing to cooperate, just that you need a bit of time. You don't want people to spring surprises on you. And as a manager, you know that at some point you're going to need your people to work overtime. Sometimes the request to work overtime comes as in, I figure out maybe on Thursday or Friday that, oh, we are going to need to meet this deadline or timeline, as the more spiritual people will use. I need my people to come in overtime. So immediately I realized that such a need is up. I'm not going to be sending an email and be saying, according to your what they call that, according to your KPI documents, you have to meet so and so schedule. I'm probably on my right if I say that. However, I realize that I'm not going to get the best from my people, even if I force them to come. I've seen that play out over and over again. So what I would rather do is come and say, oh, Cynthia, we're supposed to have done ABC this week, but we were not able to meet up. What I think we should do is that we should come in and try to catch up over the weekend. That even me, that I don't like coming for overtime, I think I will have to come this weekend. And because my people know that I don't like to come for overtime, anything that makes me have to come, it has to be something that I couldn't have done anything about. So my people already know by the time we are working during the week, is with the understanding that let's finish everything we have to do up front so that we don't have to work over the weekend. And long before it became fashionable for people to work from home, I started giving my people the opportunity to do that. Okay, I need ABC done. I don't need you to come into the office. Please don't come into the office, but please, how can you help me do ABC? Because most of the time, the issue is that you want people to come at a particular time. All the people that have ever worked with me, I've always looked at, okay, let's see, how can we get this thing? I know my end game is that I need the presentation slides, for example. I don't need you to come to your desk in the office in VI or Lekki to do it. Use your laptop at home. Set it up for me. Send it to me by email. I'll finish it off. So both of us, there was a time we had to, during the lockdown, I had to work with one of my colleagues. I think he went back to outside Lagos. He was even outside Lagos. And we had to work sometimes during the weekends. Sometimes I probably have like a wedding or something. I let him know, oh, I have a wedding. Send what I need to review. Please send it by 2 p.m. etc. because I have to be out by 4 p.m. and I'll give my comments and all. We both went above and beyond. We pushed ourselves and immediately he did the work. Every time he did something that was novel or something that kind of was above and beyond, I ensured that I let the managers know that this guy went above and beyond his job description. I kept telling them, people have to recommend him for so and so. You need to do a for him. Every opportunity I have to give him something to let him know. Sometimes it's just words. Sometimes I have the opportunity to maybe recommend him for some acknowledgement. I make sure that I mention it to everyone that this is the reason why this guy appears to be the favored person, because he did ABC. And people love to be appreciated. So in my opinion, I think that helps if you're able to manage it. So that would be my answer to your question, Cynthia. If as a manager, you know that it is inevitable for you to require your people to do something beyond their regular job description. So you do what you can do upfront to invest in their emotional bank account so that when you have to withdraw from the bank account, you are not drawing from empty. And even when you are making your request, make the request to a human being. Don't write an email that as if it was written by a robot that has no feelings. So if it was something that you could not have prevented, you could just say, oh, apologies for having to make this request. However, we need to do ABC. Therefore, I would need you to please come in on Saturday or Sunday or over the weekend, and let them even make the choice. Do they want to come on Saturday or Sunday? Do they want to work extra hours during the week? I've had cases where I gave the person the option. Do you want to do the overtime and spend more hours during the week, or do you want to come on a weekend where you are on this not disturbed and you do the work? And he made his choice, or sometimes she made her choice, and I just adapt. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. This has been a very interesting and insightful conversation. We've had lots of commentary from everybody and absolutely brilliant and insightful conversation, like I mentioned earlier. I think this conversation was very necessary at this time, particularly for organizations who are experiencing a growth phase, for organizations who have, a larger percentage of influencers. And when I say influencers, I mean strong personalities in their organization. So this is the time more organizations want to be more purposeful, and would I use the word, permit me to use the word intentional about the way that we, in fact, to have a systemic approach, if I can put it that way, to the way that we approach the concept of culture, because all of this behavior still has its roots embedded in culture. So we want to ensure that in our organizations how do I put it? We are living by the culture that we create intentionally versus living by the culture that emerges by default, where we have people owning different subsets of the organization in the organization. It doesn't work that way, and it won't work that way if we are an organization that are driven by a vision, a mission, and values. We need to make sure that our behaviors also align or reflect that mission, vision, and values that we have been talking about. So I think this is a very good opportunity for us to have more discourse around this, because changes have happened vis-a-vis COVID, and with the pandemic, we are finding that a lot of perspectives have changed, a lot of mindsets have changed, and things like that. And with that happening, we also find that, the organization needs to also be flexible enough to be able to create intentionally a culture that works for such an environment. So I think that's my final close up. Let's be more intentional about these things. Let this sort of, emails and text messages be an anomaly, something that happens one-off, not something that is a crux in the organization. Because from the basketballs that we heard from these people, we can see that it is an embedded culture. So if you give me, I give you. I don't have time for that. You understand? So we can't continue with that sort of behavior if we want to succeed and build sustainable businesses, in our dear country. So that's about it. Thank you so much for inviting me to this brilliant discourse. I look forward to more interesting topics that we can dissect, talk about, and help people. Have a brilliant one.
Oh, well, you could not have said it any better, Gloria. You summed it up quite nicely. And just to avoid repeating what has been said, it's been such a fruitful conversation, such an inciting one. Trust me, if I was taking notes, oh my God, I would have, I would have had a filled 60 leaves notebook. So, I mean, it was such a gem-packed discussion that we had today. And I think at the bottom of it all, I think emotional intelligence does play, a huge role, whichever position that you find yourself, whether as a manager or a supervisor, someone that has a subordinate, I use the word loosely, or you are at the end of the pole where you have someone to report to, someone that is your superior, someone that is your supervisor, that is the manager. Emotional intelligence plays a lot, on both sides of the totem. As a supervisor or manager, if you have not poured into your subordinates, please, don't make requests that just don't make sense. Don't make requests that put them in a precarious situation. Don't make requests that do not make them comfortable. You might get your request in that moment, but in the long run, you might not. You won't have cultivated a relationship with them, or they'll be averse to actually helping you out when you might actually need it. And being the one that has a supervisor or manager, irrespective of the requests that come, you should understand that you need to give your manager or supervisor leadway. Don't be eager to give bad blows. That's just don't be eager to give bad blows unless you're ready to get another job or something like that. You might want to tone it down a little bit. If someone has requested something of you that is not, you feel is not within their prerogatives to do so, there are other avenues to try to resolve it, as opposed to actually, just resulting, to sending that strong worded email and just that there are literally other avenues. You can wait to get into the office, have a discussion or conversation with the person. You can always escalate to the HR department. There's just so many things that can be done. Don't be that one that wants to. Someone said something earlier on, which is you can be right and you can be dead right. Don't be dead in the process of being right. Don't lose your job in the process of being right, or don't lose that privilege that you might have had in the process of wanting to be right, so to say. I think it was Adenike that said so. So on that note, we bring this to a close. Thank you so much for listening to us on this discussion. You're wonderful. We would like to hear your own opinions, your experiences. If you've experienced this before, being on either end, you might want to just drop a message, send us a message. Let's read it. It'd be lovely to sort of see what you have been through out there. Is this something like what we have read? Have you been in any of these situations? How did you handle it? Do you think that any of these people could have handled the situation better for to just get a different outcome? Follow us on our social medias. On Instagram, we are at Gist Arena with a double A in the middle. On YouTube, we are Gist Arena. Please follow us, listen to our podcast, drop us messages, tell us, well done. If you like something about what we have done, please let us know. If you do not like what we have done, please let us know. If you want us to change, if you think we can improve on something, please let us know as well. Thank you so much. Until next time, stay blessed. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Gist Arena. We hope you enjoyed the topic discussed. Please drop your comments and let us know what you think about it. We'll definitely love to hear from you. Until next time, bye!